Millionaire boy takes street kid identical to him to the mansion. The boy's answer revealed a shocking secret. Before we begin, just know, no matter where you are in the world, I'm glad you're here. Connor Hayes opened his eyes to the gentle sound of classical music playing through hidden speakers in his 900-square-foot bedroom. Sunlight streamed through floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the meticulously maintained gardens of his family's Newport estate. At 32, Connor had everything most people spent their lives chasing: wealth, status, and a corner office. At Hayes Investments, the company his father had built from nothing. As he stepped into his walk-in closet, larger than most people's living rooms, his fingers brushed past designer suits, each worth more than what many earned in a month. The household staff had already prepared his breakfast, a perfect omelet with truffle shavings and freshly squeezed orange juice. Connor ate alone, as he did most mornings, in the cavernous dining room designed for entertaining dozens. "Mr. Hayes, your car is ready," announced Martin, his driver of 8 years, standing respectfully at the doorway. Connor nodded, barely registering the man's presence. On the drive to the office, he watched the city blur past his window: people hurrying to work, mothers pushing strollers, couples holding hands. Normal lives. Despite his wealth, Connor felt an inexplicable emptiness, as though something fundamental was missing. At Hayes Investments, employees straightened as he walked through the glass doors. "Good morning, Mr. Hayes," they murmured with practiced smiles. His assistant handed him his schedule: meetings, conference calls, a lunch with potential investors. The polished routine of a successful finance executive. That evening, after a particularly exhausting board meeting, Connor loosened his tie as he gazed out his office window. It had started to snow, the first of the season. 52 floors below, the city was transforming into a winter wonderland. Something pulled at him, a need to escape the suffocating perfection of his life, if only for a moment. "I'm going for a walk," he told his assistant, who looked at him as though he'd announced he was flying to the moon. Outside, the cold air hit his lungs like a shock. Connor walked aimlessly, savoring the anonymity among the crowds of holiday shoppers. He'd walked several blocks when something caught his eye: 2 small figures huddled in a recessed doorway of an abandoned storefront. As he drew closer, he saw they were children, twin girls, perhaps 5 or 6 years old, with identical faces framed by tangled blonde hair. Despite the dirt on their faces, their features were delicate, almost familiar. They wore tattered pink coats over threadbare dresses, clutching worn teddy bears to their chests. One of the girls looked up, her bright blue eyes meeting his. Connor felt his heart stutter. There was something in those eyes, something that pierced through the armor he'd built around himself. "Please, sir," the girl said, her voice small but clear in the winter air. "Could you help us find our mommy?" The second twin turned then, fixing him with an identical gaze. "She said she'd come back." Connor's throat tightened as he crouched, down to their level. "Where did you last see her?" "She left us here yesterday," the first girl said, her chin quivering slightly. "She said to be brave." Something broke inside Connor's chest, a dam he'd built long ago. Tears filled his eyes as he looked at these abandoned children, so vulnerable, yet dignified in their suffering. He didn't understand why he was crying. Why these particular children affected him so deeply when he'd walked past countless homeless people before. But as snowflakes landed on their eyelashes, something inexplicable tugged at his heart, like a memory he couldn't quite grasp. "I'll help you," he whispered, his voice cracking with emotion. Little did Connor know that this moment, this seemingly random encounter on a snowy evening, would shatter everything he thought he knew about himself and his perfect life. Connor's heart pounded as he looked at the twin girls shivering in the doorway. "My name is Connor," he said softly. "What are your names?" The bolder of the 2 girls responded. "I'm Lily and this is Emma." Her small hand protectively held her sister's. "We're hungry." Connor felt a surge of protective instinct that surprised him. "Let me get you somewhere warm and find you something to eat." He reached for his phone to call Martin, then hesitated. What was he doing? He barely knew these children. He should call social services or the police. But something in their matching blue eyes, something hauntingly familiar, made him pause. "Sir?" Emma spoke up, her voice barely above a whisper. "Our mommy said a man in a fancy suit would help us someday. Are you that man?" The question struck Connor like a physical blow. Before he could respond, both girls suddenly stiffened, their eyes widening in fear at something behind him. Connor turned to see a disheveled woman approaching, her wild eyes fixed on the twins. "There you are," she slurred, clearly intoxicated. "I've been looking everywhere." "Mommy!" the girls cried in unison, but Connor noted the fear in their voices rather than relief. The woman glared at Connor. "Who are you? What are you doing with my girls?" He was helping us, Mommy," Lily interrupted. "We're hungry." The woman's face hardened. "Always complaining. I told you I'd be back, didn't I?" She grabbed their wrists roughly. "Come on, we're going." Connor stood towering over the woman. "Wait, these children need food and proper shelter. It's freezing out here." "Mind your own business, rich boy," she spat, noticing his expensive coat. "These are my kids." Something felt wrong, terribly wrong. The twins' fearful glances, their malnourished appearance, the woman's aggressive demeanor. "At least let me give you money for food," Connor said, reaching for his wallet. The woman's eyes narrowed with interest. "How much?" As Connor pulled out several $100 bills, he caught Emma's eye. She subtly shook her head, tears threatening to spill. "Actually," Connor said, putting his wallet away, "I'd like to call someone who can help all of you. The girls need medical attention." The woman's face contorted with rage. "You think I'm not taking care of them? You think you know better than their own mother?" She yanked the girls toward her, making them whimper. "Fine, keep your money. We don't need your charity." As she dragged the twins away, Emma looked back at Connor with such desperation that it physically hurt him. Lily dropped her teddy bear in the snow, but the woman didn't stop. Connor picked up the worn bear, brushing off the snow. Without thinking, he followed them, maintaining a discreet distance. They turned down an alley, then another, finally entering a dilapidated building with broken windows. Standing outside in the gathering darkness, Connor clutched the teddy bear and made a decision. He called his assistant. "Sarah, I need you to find me the best child welfare attorney in the city. Tonight." "Mr. Hayes?" His assistant sounded concerned. "Is everything all right?" "No," Connor replied, staring at the building where the twins had disappeared. "But I'm going to make it right." As he ended the call, Connor noticed something peculiar about the teddy bear. A small tag sewn into its foot with faded letters. "Property of Hayes Memorial Hospital." The same hospital where Connor was born. A chill that had nothing to do with the snow ran down his spine as pieces of a puzzle he didn't yet understand began to form in his mind. That night, Connor couldn't sleep. The twins' faces haunted him, and the teddy bear with the Hayes Memorial Hospital tag sat on his nightstand like an accusation. Around 3 a.m. he finally drifted off, only to be plunged into a nightmare. In his dream he heard babies crying, not one, but two. He was in a hospital corridor, running toward the sound, but the hallway kept stretching endlessly before him. When he finally reached a door and pushed it open, he saw his mother, Catherine Hayes, younger than he'd ever known her, cradling 2 infants. "They're taking them away," she sobbed. "They're taking my babies." Connor jolted awake, his heart hammering, sweat soaking his silk pajamas. The dream felt oddly vivid, more like a memory than a nightmare. His mother had passed away 5 years ago from cancer, taking her secrets with her. His phone lit up, a message from Sarah. She'd found him a lawyer, Diana Morgan, the city's top child welfare attorney. They could meet at 9 a.m., unable to go back. To sleep, Connor dressed and drove himself to Hayes Memorial Hospital before dawn. The building loomed against the still dark sky, its modern facade concealing decades of history, including his own birth 32 years ago. The elderly receptionist looked up as he approached. "Mr. Hayes, what brings you here so early? Nothing wrong, I hope?" Connor forced a smile. His family had funded the hospital's East Wing. Everyone knew who he was. Just looking into some hospital records, my mother's old files. Her expression softened. Catherine was a wonderful woman. Your father was beside himself when you were born, you know. Never seen a man so proud. My father? Robert Hayes? Connor asked, surprised. His father had never struck him as the sentimental type. Oh yes, though he was still making his fortune then, not like now with the Hayes name on half the buildings downtown. She leaned forward. He paced these halls for hours while your mother was in labor. Then, when they finally let him in to see you, she stopped abruptly. What? Connor pressed. She looked uncomfortable. Oh, nothing important. Ancient history now. Connor pulled out the teddy bear. Do you recognize this? It has a Hayes memorial tag. The receptionist's face went pale. Where did you find that? So you do recognize it? She glanced around nervously. We haven't given those bears out in decades. They were for special cases. Special cases? You should talk to Dr. Whitman. He's been here forever. Was head of obstetrics when you were born. She wrote down a number. He's retired now, but he volunteers Tuesdays and Thursdays in pediatrics. Connor thanked her and headed back to his car, stopping when his phone rang. It was Diana Morgan. Mr. Hayes, I've looked into the situation you described. There's no record of twin girls named Lily and Emma being registered with any social services. What does that mean? Connor asked, getting into his car. It could mean many things. Either those aren't their real names or what? Or they don't officially exist. Connor's blood ran cold. I need to find them. Mr. Hayes, if you suspect child endangerment, we should involve the authorities. Not yet, Connor said firmly. I need to understand what's happening first. After ending the call, Connor stared at the teddy bear on his passenger seat. Then he noticed something he'd missed before. A small tear in the seam of its back. Carefully, he widened the opening and extracted a folded, yellowed piece of paper. With trembling fingers, he unfolded it. In faded ink, he read 5 words that changed everything. Catherine Hayes. Twins. One survived. The hospital loomed in his rearview mirror as a terrible suspicion began to form in Connor's mind. Connor sat in his parked car, the yellowed note trembling in his hands. Catherine Hayes. Twins. One survived. The implications were staggering. Could he have had a twin? And what did that have to do with the little girls he'd found? He was startled by a knock on his window. Diana Morgan stood outside, her expression concerned. She was younger than he'd expected, mid-30s with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor. Mr. Hayes? I thought we were meeting at my office. Connor gestured for her to join him. As she settled into the passenger seat, she noticed the teddy. Bear in the note, what's this about? She asked. Connor ran his hand through his hair. I think this is bigger than 2 homeless girls. I think it's about my family. He told her everything. The encounter with the twins, the hospital tag, the note, and his disturbing dream. Diana listened without interruption, her expression growing, increasingly troubled. You think these girls might be connected to your family somehow? She finally asked. I don't know, but I need to find them again. Diana studied the note. This paper is old, but someone could have planted it recently to manipulate you. You're a wealthy man, Mr. Hayes. Call me Connor. She nodded. Connor, then. I've seen wealthy people targeted for scams involving supposed long-lost relatives. We need to be cautious. I know what I saw. Those girls. His voice faltered. There was something familiar about them. Diana's face softened slightly. I believe you saw something that disturbed you. And if children are in danger, we need to act, but we need to be smart about this. Connor's phone rang. His father. With an apologetic glance at Diana, he answered, Connor, where are you? The Collins merger meeting started 15 minutes ago. I'm handling something personal, Dad. Personal? Robert Hayes' voice sharpened. Nothing is more important than this deal. We've been working on it for months. I'll be there as soon as I can, Connor promised, though he had no intention of keeping it. After hanging up, he looked at Diana. My father can't know about this yet. Not until I understand what's happening. Diana nodded. Fair enough. I have a contact in the police department who can help us locate the building you saw without making it official. But first, I'd like to speak with this Dr. Whitman at the hospital. As they walked back toward the hospital entrance, Connor's phone buzzed with a text. It was from Sarah, his assistant. Your father is furious. Also, Elizabeth Mercer called, said it's urgent. Connor froze. Elizabeth had been his mother's closest friend and confidant. They'd lost touch after his mother's death. Something wrong? Diana asked. We need to make a stop first, Connor said, showing her the message. Elizabeth might know something about my mother's pregnancy. 20 minutes later, they pulled up to a modest brownstone in a quiet neighborhood. Elizabeth opened the door, immediately as if she'd been watching for them. Connor, she said, embracing him tightly. It's been too long. She was in her 60s now, but her eyes were as bright and observant as ever. Inside, Elizabeth poured tea with trembling hands. I saw you on the news last night, she explained. You were in the background of a story about homelessness. You were talking to two little girls. Connor leaned forward. Did you recognize them? Elizabeth's eyes filled with tears. Not them specifically. But when I saw your face, the way you looked at them, I knew. It's time you learned the truth. She reached for an old leather album on her bookshelf and placed it on the coffee table. Your mother made me promise to give you this if you ever started asking questions. She opened it to reveal a sonogram image labeled, Hayes Twins, 12 weeks. But this makes no sense, Connor whispered. Why would my parents hide a twin? Elizabeth's expression darkened. Not your parents, Connor, your father. Catherine never knew what he did. Diana and Connor exchanged glances as Elizabeth turned the page to reveal a photo of Catherine holding two newborn infants, her face radiant with joy. What did my father do? Connor asked, his voice barely audible. Elizabeth took a deep breath. Catherine had a difficult pregnancy. The doctors put her on bed rest for the final months. Your father hired a private nurse, Veronica Blackwood, to care for her. Connor had never heard the name before. During delivery, there were complications, Elizabeth continued. Catherine was heavily sedated. When she woke, Robert told her one of the twins hadn't survived. Elizabeth's voice cracked. She was devastated. But that wasn't true, Connor said, staring at the photo of his mother holding two healthy babies. I only saw this photo once, when Catherine showed me secretly. By then, Robert had convinced everyone, including the hospital staff, that there had only been one baby. You. He had documents, death certificates. Catherine began to doubt her own memories. Why would he do that? Diana asked. Elizabeth looked pained. Robert was building his empire then. He'd made some questionable deals. He was paranoid about rivals using his family against him. I think he saw twins as a complication, a vulnerability. So what happened to my twin? Connor demanded. Catherine believed Robert had arranged an adoption. She searched for years but hit walls everywhere. When she got sick, she made me promise to keep looking and to tell you when the time was right. And the nurse, Veronica? She disappeared right after the birth. Catherine thought she was involved. Connor's mind raced. These little girls I found, they can't be my twin. The timing doesn't work. No, Elizabeth agreed. But there's more. She turned to another page in the album, showing a young man who looked remarkably like Connor. This is Thomas. I found him 3 years ago. He was your twin. Connor felt like he'd been punched. Was? Elizabeth's eyes filled with tears. He died in a car accident shortly after I located him. He never knew about you. But before he died. Her voice faltered. What? Connor pressed. He had daughters, twin girls. The room seemed to spin around Connor. Lily and Emma. I don't know their names. Thomas married a woman named Melissa. They lived in Riverside. When Thomas died, Melissa fell apart. Drugs, alcohol. I lost track of them until I saw you on the news with those girls. Diana pulled out her phone. Thomas's last name? Reynolds. His adoptive family's name. Diana typed rapidly. Thomas Reynolds died 3 years ago in a collision on Highway 16, survived by wife Melissa and twin daughters, aged 2 at the time. Connor stood abruptly. We need to find them. Now. Connor, Diana cautioned. If these are your nieces, we need to handle this carefully. If their mother is abusive or neglectful, we need evidence before we can intervene legally. Those girls were freezing and starving on the street. I understand, but we can't just take them. We need to build a case. Elizabeth touched Connor's arm. There's something else you should know. When Catherine got sick, she changed her will. She left half her estate in trust for her other child or any descendants. Robert fought it, but couldn't break that provision. There's a trust worth millions waiting for Thomas's children. Connor's phone buzzed again, his father calling for the 3rd time. He silenced it. Robert never knew I found Thomas, Elizabeth added. But if he discovers you're looking for the girls, the implication hung in the air. If Robert Hayes had separated twins once, what would he do to protect his secret now? I need to get back to that building where I saw them go, Connor said. Diana nodded. I've texted my police contact. He'll meet us there. As they headed for the door, Elizabeth pressed the album into Connor's hands. Catherine wanted you to have this, and Connor, be careful. Your father is a powerful man. In the car, Connor stared at the photo of Thomas, the brother he never knew he had, whose daughters now needed him. The pieces were falling into place, but one question remained unanswered. If my father arranged my twins' adoption, how did Thomas's daughters end up on the street with a woman who appears to be neglecting them? Diana's expression was grim. That's what worries me. If your father's involved in this somehow. Connor's jaw tightened. Then those girls are in even more danger than we thought. Connor and Diana drove through increasingly narrow streets as evening fell. The neighborhoods grew more rundown with each passing block. Finally, they spotted a police cruiser parked discreetly near the dilapidated building Connor had followed. The girls, too. A plainclothes officer approached as they parked. Diana, he greeted with a nod. This must be Mr. Hayes. Thanks for coming, Jack, Diana said. This is Connor Hayes. Connor, this is Detective Jack Martinez. Connor shook the detective's hand. Have you seen anyone enter or leave the building? Several people, Jack confirmed, including a woman with 2 small girls about an hour ago. They went in but haven't come out. Connor's heart raced. That's them. What's our approach? Diana asked. Jack looked concerned. This building's condemned, but squatters use it. It's not safe, especially for children. I can check on the minors' welfare, standard procedure. And if they are my nieces, Connor asked, we document the conditions. If they're unsafe, we can remove the children temporarily while we investigate. And then what? Connor pressed. Diana touched his arm. Then we file for emergency custody based on your family connection, pending a more permanent arrangement. Connor nodded, trying to calm his churning emotions. They approached the building, Jack leading the way. The entrance was missing its door, replaced by a filthy blanket hanging from nails. Inside, the darkness was broken only by flickering candles and makeshift fires in metal trash cans. The smell was overwhelming. Mold, human waste, and rotting food. Jack flashed his badge to a startled man who quickly disappeared up a crumbling staircase. Which floor? Jack asked. I don't know, Connor admitted. I only followed them to the building. We'll start from the bottom, Jack decided. They moved cautiously through the first floor, Jack announcing police presence. They found several homeless individuals, but no sign of the twins. On the second floor, they heard children's voices from behind a door reinforced with plywood. Jack knocked firmly. Police, open up. After a pause, the door cracked open. The woman Connor had seen with the twins peered out, her bloodshot eyes widening at the sight of Connor. You, she hissed. You called the cops on me? Ma'am, I'm Detective Martinez. We're conducting a welfare check on the children residing here. My kids are fine, she snapped, trying to close the door, but Jack blocked it with his foot. I need to see them, ma'am. Behind her, Connor could see the twins huddled on a dirty mattress in the corner of the room. There was no furniture, no visible food, and the single window was broken, covered with cardboard that did little to keep out the winter cold. Emma! Lily! Connor called out. Both girls looked up, recognition flashing in their eyes. You know them? Jack asked. They're my nieces, Connor said firmly. My twin brother's daughters. The woman laughed harshly. Twin brother? Nice try, rich boy. I'm their mother. Are you Melissa Reynolds? Diana asked. The woman's face changed. Who's asking? I'm an attorney representing Mr. Hayes. We know about Thomas Reynolds. At the mention of Thomas, the woman's hostility faltered. What do you want? To help the girls, Connor said. And you, if you'll let us. Jack had been surveying the room with growing concern. Ma'am, I can't allow children to stay in these conditions. It's not safe. You're not taking my daughters, she shouted, lunging toward the girls. Mommy? Emma whimpered. Connor made a quick decision and stepped forward. Melissa, please. I'm Thomas's brother. I didn't know about him until today. I want to help his daughters. They're my family too. Thomas never mentioned a brother, she said suspiciously. He didn't know. We were separated at birth. Something in Connor's expression must have reached her because Melissa's shoulders sagged. I can't do this anymore, she whispered. After Thomas died, everything fell apart. Let us help, Connor urged. The girls can have a warm place to stay, food, clothes, and you can get the help you need. Melissa looked at her daughters, then back at Connor. You look just like him, she said softly. He had your eyes. In that moment of vulnerability, Jack stepped in. Ms. Reynolds, I need to take the children to a safe location tonight. You can come to the station to discuss arrangements. Melissa nodded slowly, defeat evident in her posture. Let me talk to them first. She knelt beside the twins, whispering something. Both girls began to cry, clinging to their mother. It's just for a little while, Melissa promised, her own voice breaking. This nice man is your daddy's brother. He's going to take care of you. Connor felt tears sting his eyes as Emma looked up at him, her small face so much like the photos of Thomas in the album. You have my brother's eyes too, he said gently, crouching down to their level. Both of you do. Hours later, Connor sat in a stark room at the police station, watching Lily and Emma devour hot meals from the diner across the street. Clean now after careful attention from a kind female officer, their matching blonde hair shone under the fluorescent lights. Detective Martinez had arranged temporary emergency custody while Diana worked on the legal paperwork. They look so much like the photos of Thomas, Connor said quietly to Diana. DNA testing will confirm everything, but I don't think there's much doubt, she replied, watching the girls with a gentle smile. Melissa had been taken to another room for questioning and medical evaluation. The initial assessment was grim, severe addiction issues and possible mental health problems. Connor felt conflicted, anger at her for neglecting the girls, yet sympathy for a woman who'd lost her husband and spiraled into despair. What happens to her? He asked Diana. That depends on her. If she agrees to treatment and shows commitment to recovery, she could eventually regain custody or at least visitation. But the girls need stability now. Emma looked up from her chicken nuggets. Is our mommy in trouble? Connor moved to sit beside her. Your mommy is sick, and the doctors are going to help her get better. She cries a lot, Lily offered, her voice small but clear. Since Daddy went to heaven, Connor swallowed hard. I bet your daddy was wonderful. Both girls nodded solemnly. He gave the best piggyback rides, Emma said. And he could make pancakes shaped like animals, Lily added. Connor smiled, treasuring these tiny glimpses of the brother he never knew. I'd like to hear all about him sometime. A social worker entered, introducing herself as Ms. Reeves. "We need to document the children's physical condition," she explained. "Standard procedure in neglect cases." As Ms. Reeves gently examined the girls, checking for injuries or signs of abuse, Connor and Diana waited anxiously. The twins seemed accustomed to being examined, answering the social worker's questions with the directness only children possess. "Lily, can you show me your birthmark again?" Ms. Reeves asked, making notes on her clipboard. Connor's attention sharpened as Lily pulled down the collar of her borrowed sweatshirt, revealing a crescent-shaped mark on her shoulder. "Emma has the same one," Lily announced proudly. "We're identical." Emma nodded, showing her matching mark. Connor felt the room tilt around him. With trembling fingers, he unbuttoned his shirt collar and pulled it aside to reveal an identical crescent-shaped birthmark on his own shoulder. Ms. Reeves looked between Connor and the girls, her professional demeanor momentarily forgotten. "That's remarkable." Diana stared. "Connor, you never mentioned this." "I didn't think." His voice failed him. This physical proof of their connection struck him more powerfully than any document could. Emma approached slowly, her small hand reaching out to touch his birthmark. "Like ours?" she whispered. "Yes," Connor said, his voice thick with emotion. "Just like yours." Lily joined her sister, studying Connor's face intently. "You look like Daddy, but your eyes are sadder." Connor couldn't hold back his tears any longer. "I wish I had known your daddy. I wish I had known I had a brother." Hesitantly, Emma climbed onto his lap, followed immediately by Lily. Connor held them gently, these precious pieces of the twin he'd never known, his heart overflowing with a fierce protectiveness. Ms. Reeves cleared her throat, visibly moved. "Mr. Hayes, given the circumstances and the obvious family connection, I'll recommend you for emergency kinship placement. The girls can go home with you tonight, pending court approval." "Thank you," Connor whispered, not trusting himself to say more. Detective Martinez entered with news. "Melissa's agreed to a 30-day inpatient treatment program. She's signing voluntary temporary custody papers now." As the adults discussed logistics, Connor felt a small hand on his cheek. Lily was studying him intently. "Are you our uncle?" she asked. "Yes," Connor replied. "I'm your daddy's brother. Will we live with you now?" Emma's voice was hopeful, but uncertain. Connor met their identical blue gazes, his brother's eyes looking back at him. "If that's what you want, I have a very big house with plenty of room." "Do you have toys?" Lily asked, practical concerns taking precedence. Connor smiled through his tears. "Not yet, but we can fix that tomorrow." Both girls nodded seriously, as if concluding a business negotiation. Then Emma leaned against his chest, her small body relaxing with exhaustion. Lily followed suit, and within minutes, both were asleep, in his arms. Diana watched the scene with glistening eyes. "They trust you already." "I won't let them down," Connor vowed, looking down at his nieces. "I won't let Thomas down." Connor carried the sleeping twins from his car to his penthouse apartment, their small bodies light in his arms. Ms. Reeves followed with the girls' few belongings in a plastic bag, the teddy bears, a tattered photo of Thomas, and a worn children's book. "I'll check in tomorrow," she promised as she left. "Child Services will inspect your home within 48 hours. Alone with his nieces, Connor looked around his immaculate, minimalist apartment with new eyes. The sleek furniture, abstract art, and spotless surfaces suddenly seemed cold and unwelcoming for children. Tomorrow he would need to buy beds, clothes, toys, everything 2 5-year-old girls might need. For tonight, he placed them gently on his king-sized bed, still wrapped in the blankets from the police station. He was watching them sleep when his phone vibrated with a text from his father. "Meeting tomorrow, 8 a.m. No excuses." Connor silenced his phone. Tomorrow would bring its own battles. For now, he needed rest. He woke at dawn to find Lily staring at him from inches away. He'd fallen asleep in a chair beside the bed. "Your house is very big," she whispered. Good morning to you too, Connor smiled. Emma's still sleeping, she reported. I'm hungry. Connor realized he had no suitable food for children. How about we order breakfast? Lily nodded solemnly. Pancakes? Like Daddy made? Absolutely. By the time Emma woke, pancakes had been delivered and Connor was receiving a detailed education on the proper animal shapes from Lily. Daddy made the best elephant pancakes, she explained, demonstrating with her fork. Emma wandered in, rubbing her eyes. Where's Mommy? Connor sat her gently on a chair. Remember? Mommy's with doctors who are helping her get better. Emma nodded, but her lower lip trembled. Connor quickly added, and we're going shopping today for anything you girls need. New teddy bears? Emma asked hopefully. If you want. But what about these? Connor gestured to their worn bears. They're special, Lily explained, taking a bite of pancake. Daddy gave them to us. Connor nodded, understanding. Then we'll keep them forever. After breakfast, Connor was faced with a dilemma. He couldn't miss another day at work without explanation, but he couldn't leave the girls. He was considering options when his doorbell rang. To his shock, Frank, his family's longtime chauffeur, stood outside. Mr. Connor, Frank said with a slight bow. Ms. Elizabeth sent me. She thought you might need assistance today. Connor stared, uncertain. Frank had worked for his father for decades. Could he be trusted? Reading his hesitation, Frank lowered his voice. I've known about Thomas since he was born, sir. I drove your mother to see him secretly several times when he was a child. I've been waiting for this day. Connor felt like the ground had shifted beneath him. You knew all this time? Frank nodded, his weathered face solemn. Your mother trusted me. I helped her track Thomas until we lost him at 18 when he changed his name. She never knew he'd found him again. Connor studied the man who had driven him to school for years, never hinting at the secrets he kept. Why didn't you tell me? It wasn't my place, sir. But now that you know. Frank gestured subtly toward the apartment where the twins were visible eating pancakes. I'm here to help. Connor made a split-second decision. Come in. There's someone you should meet. Or rather, two someones. Inside, the twins looked up curiously. Girls, this is Mr. Frank. He was a good friend of your grandmother. Frank's professional composure cracked as he looked at the twins. They have Catherine's smile, he said softly, and Thomas's eyes. Emma scrutinized him. Are you a driver? You have a driver hat. Frank knelt to her level, removing his cap respectfully. Yes, miss, I drove your grandmother for many years, and your uncle too. Can you drive us? Lily asked excitedly. Frank looked to Connor for permission. We need to go shopping. Connor, confirmed. And then to my office. I can't miss a board meeting with my father today. I understand, sir. The car is waiting whenever you're ready. As they prepared to leave, Frank whispered, Your father doesn't know I'm here. Ms. Elizabeth thought it best. Connor nodded, grateful for these unexpected allies who had protected his mother's secrets for years. For the first time, he felt he wasn't facing this alone. Thank you, Frank, he said, watching the twins pull on their tattered coats. For everything. Frank's eyes glistened. I made a promise to your mother, sir. I intend to keep it. The day proceeded like a whirlwind. First, a shopping expedition where Connor quickly learned that 5-year-old girls had very definite opinions on everything from shoes to toothbrushes. Frank waited patiently as they filled the car with clothes, toys, and children's furniture for immediate delivery. I've never spent so much on clothes in my life, Connor remarked as they left the department store. You should have seen your mother shopping for you, Frank replied with a rare smile. She bought out entire children's departments. These casual glimpses into his mother's life, the life he'd known yet somehow hadn't fully seen, gave Connor a bittersweet ache. By the time they reached Hayes Investments' gleaming tower, the twins were happily wearing new matching blue dresses and coats. Connor had instructed his assistant to prepare the conference room adjacent to his office with coloring books, puzzles, and a television with children's programs. Sarah, these are my nieces, Lily and Emma. Connor introduced as they arrived. They'll be staying in the conference room during my meeting. Sarah's professional composure slipped for just a moment. Nieces? I didn't realize you had... It's a recent development, Connor interrupted smoothly. Frank will stay with them. Of course, Sarah nodded, recovering quickly. The board is already assembled in the main conference room. Your father has asked about you 3 times. Connor knelt to the twins' level. I need to go to a meeting now. Can you be good girls for Mr. Frank? Both nodded solemnly. Lily whispered, Is your daddy mean? Connor was taken aback by her perception. Why do you ask? You look scared, Emma observed. I'm not scared, Connor assured them, though it wasn't entirely true. Just busy. I'll be back soon. As he walked toward the boardroom, Connor steeled himself. He hadn't prepared what to say. To his father. Should he confront him immediately or wait? The decision was made for him when Robert Hayes stepped into the hallway. Where the hell have you been? Robert demanded, then froze as he spotted the twins down the corridor. Visible, through the glass conference room walls, the color drained from Robert's face. What are they doing here? Connor studied his father, the man who had separated him from his twin who had lied to his mother for decades. You recognize them. It wasn't a question. Robert grabbed Connor's arm, pulling him into a nearby empty office. Who are they? He demanded, his voice dangerously quiet. You know exactly who they are, Connor replied, surprising himself with his calm. They're Thomas's daughters. Robert's composure cracked. Who told you about Thomas? Does it matter? I know everything. I know you separated us at birth. I know you lied to Mom her entire life. I know Thomas died 3 years ago, never knowing. He had a brother. Robert paced, his usual commanding presence fragmented by panic. You don't understand. I did what was necessary. Necessary? Connor's calm shattered. You stole my brother from me. You stole a son from Mom. What possible justification? I was protecting this family. Robert's voice rose. I had enemies who would have used any weakness against me. Twins would have been a target. That's insane. Connor cut him off. You didn't protect anyone. You destroyed our family. Robert's eyes hardened. What I built has provided you with everything. You've never wanted for anything. Except a brother, Connor said quietly. Except the truth. Robert glanced again toward the conference room. Those children, are you certain they're his? They have our birthmark, Connor said, and they're the spitting image of Thomas from the photos I've seen. DNA tests are being processed. Robert sank into a chair. For a moment he looked old and defeated. It was never supposed to come to this. Thomas was adopted by a good family. He was supposed to have a good life. And did he? Do you even know? I made sure he had opportunities. Anonymous donations to his college fund, connections to good jobs. You spied on him? Connor was incredulous. I kept track of him, Robert corrected. From a distance. But I lost him after college when he changed his name. Connor pieced together the timeline. So you didn't know he died? That he had children? Robert shook his head, genuine grief crossing his face. I would have helped them. Like you helped him? By stealing him from his mother and brother? Connor couldn't keep the bitterness from his voice. I did what I thought was right, Robert insisted, though. His conviction seemed to waver. Catherine was in no condition to handle twins. She had severe postpartum depression. I thought she'd be better with just one. That wasn't your decision to make, Connor said. No, Robert admitted quietly. It wasn't. The rare admission of fault from his father left Connor momentarily, speechless. Robert composed himself, CEO mask sliding back into place. What do you intend to do with those children? They're my nieces. I've been granted temporary custody while their mother undergoes treatment. Treatment? For addiction. She fell apart after Thomas died. Robert absorbed this, then asked, And The board meeting? The Collins merger can wait, Connor said firmly. Those girls can't. To his surprise, Robert nodded. I'll handle the board. Take the day. As Connor turned to leave, Robert added, Connor, don't tell them who I am. Not yet. Connor paused at the door. I don't intend to. They've been through enough trauma already. Thank you, Robert said, so quietly Connor barely heard it. Walking back to the conference room, Connor felt oddly unburdened. The confrontation he'd dreaded was over, though he knew this was just the beginning of a long, complicated process. When he entered, the twins looked up from their coloring books. That was a fast meeting, Lily observed. We're going home, Connor announced. Already? Emma looked disappointed, holding up her half-finished drawing. You can finish it at home, Connor promised. And we'll order pizza for lunch. Both girls cheered, gathering their new belongings. Frank approached. Everything all right, sir? Connor looked back toward his father's office. No, but maybe it will be. As they left, Connor noticed Robert watching from a distance, his expression unreadable as he observed his son with his brother's children. For a moment, their eyes met across the expanse of the modern lobby, father and son separated by decades of secrets, yet connected by the two small girls holding Connor's hands. 3 days later, Connor sat in Diana's office reviewing the DNA, test results that confirmed what he already knew. Lily and Emma were indeed his nieces, his twin brother's daughters. The girls had settled into his home with remarkable adaptability, and Connor was quickly learning the art of bath times, bedtime stories, and managing identical twins who could switch places to confuse adults. So what happens now? Connor asked, holding the official paperwork. Diana leaned back in her chair. We file for permanent custody. Given the circumstances, you have a strong case as their closest living relative. And Melissa? She's doing well in treatment, according to her caseworker. She'll likely request visitation rights eventually. Diana studied Connor. Would you oppose that? Connor shook his head. No. Despite everything, she's their mother. They love her. Diana smiled approvingly. That's the right answer. Family court judges appreciate that attitude. Their conversation was interrupted by Connor's phone. It was Frank. Sir, there's a woman at your apartment building demanding to see the children. She claims to be their nurse. Connor frowned. Their nurse? The girls never mentioned a nurse. She's quite insistent, sir. Security is holding her in the lobby. I'm on my way, Connor said, already standing. Diana, can you come with me? This feels strange. 20 minutes later, they arrived at Connor's building. In the marble lobby, security guards flanked an elderly woman in a white pantsuit, her silver hair pulled into a tight bun. Something about her seemed vaguely familiar to Connor. Mr. Hayes, she said as he approached. I've been trying to reach you. Who are you? Connor asked cautiously. Veronica Blackwood, she replied. I was your mother's private nurse during her pregnancy. Connor felt like he'd been struck. Veronica Blackwood? The nurse who helped separate the twins? The woman's composed facade cracked slightly. Is that what you've been told? That I helped separate you from your brother? Didn't you? Veronica's eyes flashed with indignation. I tried to prevent it. Your mother knew she had twins. I confirmed it for her despite what the doctors, paid by your father, told her. When she went into labor, there were complications. She needed an emergency C-section, and they put her under full anesthesia. When she woke, one baby was gone. And you did nothing? Connor's voice rose. I did everything I could, Veronica hissed. Your father had me fired, threatened to have my nursing license revoked if I ever contacted Catherine. I spent years trying to track down where he'd sent your brother. Diana stepped forward. Why show up now after all these years? I've been watching, Veronica said. When I saw news coverage of Connor Hayes with 2 small girls, I knew. Those are Thomas's daughters, aren't they? Connor studied her suspiciously. How would you even recognize them? How did you know about Thomas? Because I found him, Veronica said. 10 years ago. I couldn't contact him directly. Your father's people were always watching. but I kept tabs on him. When he died, her voice faltered. I tried to help Melissa and the girls, but she turned me away. Why should I believe you? Connor demanded. Veronica reached into her handbag and pulled out a small, leather-bound journal. Your mother's diary from her pregnancy. She gave it to me for safekeeping when she suspected your father was hiding things from her. Connor took the journal with trembling hands, recognizing his mother's handwriting on the first page. Read it, Veronica urged. Then decide if I'm telling the truth. Connor flipped through pages of his mother's intimate thoughts, her joy over expecting twins, her confusion when doctors later insisted there was only one baby. Then he found an entry dated 3 days after his birth. Veronica confirmed my suspicions. There were 2 heartbeats, 2 babies. She's the only one I can trust. Robert is hiding something terrible from me. If anything happens to me, Veronica has promised to find my other son. Connor looked up, his anger fading. She trusted you. With her life, Veronica confirmed, and with her sons. I failed her for years, but when I finally found Thomas, she reached into her bag again, producing a photograph of a younger Veronica holding twin baby girls. I was there when these little ones were born. Melissa allowed me to help at first, before things went bad. Connor stared at the photograph, pieces falling into place. You've been watching over my brother's family all this time? Trying to, Veronica corrected. After your mother died, I had fewer resources. And when Thomas died, Melissa spiraled quickly. She shut me out. Diana touched Connor's arm. This could change everything in court. She's a witness to both the original separation and the girl's early life. Connor nodded slowly, looking at this woman who represented yet another thread connecting him to his lost brother. We should continue this conversation upstairs. The girls might remember you. As they entered the elevator, Veronica said quietly, They called me Nonna V. The moment Veronica stepped into Connor's apartment, the twins' reaction confirmed her story. Nonna V! They cried in unison, rushing toward her with a joy Connor hadn't witnessed since meeting them. Veronica knelt despite her age, embracing both girls tightly. My darlings, she whispered, her professional composure cracking as tears filled her eyes. I've been so worried. You know Nonna V? Emma asked Connor, her small face alight with happiness. We just met, Connor explained gently. But she knew my mother, your grandmother. While the twins showed Veronica their new toys and clothes, Diana pulled Connor aside. This changes our strategy, she whispered. Veronica is not only a connection to the twins' past, but a witness to your father's deception. She could be crucial in court. Connor nodded thoughtfully. But is exposing my father's actions publicly the best thing for the girls? That's something you need to decide, Diana acknowledged. But having Veronica's testimony in our back pocket gives us leverage. Later, with the twins settled for a nap, exhausted from the excitement of reuniting with their Nonna, Connor and Veronica sat in his living room, Catherine's diary between them. Tell me about my mother, Connor said. About who she really was. Veronica's eyes softened with memory. Catherine was extraordinary. Intelligent, kind, and fiercely protective. When she suspected your father was hiding the truth about her pregnancy, she confided in me. We became conspirators of sorts. And after I was born, she never stopped searching for your brother. For years she collected clues, followed leads that always seemed to vanish. Your father was thorough in covering his tracks. Connor struggled to reconcile this image of his determined mother with the elegant, sometimes distant woman he'd known. Why didn't she ever tell me? She feared for your safety, Veronica explained. Robert made it clear there would be consequences if she pursued the truth openly. She planned to tell you when you turned 30, when you'd be established enough to stand against your father if necessary. She died before she could, Connor realized, pain lancing through him. Yes. On her deathbed, she made me promise to continue searching. Veronica's voice caught. Finding Thomas was both triumph and heartbreak. He was so much like her. Same laugh, same compassion, Did he know about me? No. I observed from a distance, through mutual connections. I was working up the courage to approach him directly when her voice faltered. The accident, Connor finished. Veronica nodded. After that, I tried to support Melissa and the girls, but Melissa's grief made her suspicious of everyone. When she started using drugs, I tried to intervene. She shut me out completely. The buzzer interrupted them. Frank's voice came through the intercom. "Mr. Connor, your father is here." Connor and Veronica exchanged alarmed glances. "My father?" "He's quite insistent, sir." Connor made a quick decision. "Let him up, but don't mention Ms. Blackwood." Minutes later, Robert Hayes strode into the apartment with his customary authority, then froze at the sight of Veronica. "You," he whispered, color draining from his face. "Hello, Robert," Veronica said coolly. "It's been 32 years. Robert looked to Connor. "What is she doing here?" "Filling in the gaps in your story," Connor replied. "Like how you threatened her license if she told Mom about her twins." Robert's jaw tightened. "I did what was necessary to protect this family." "By traumatizing your wife? By separating brothers?" Connor challenged. "You can't understand the pressures I was under," Robert insisted. "I was building an empire from nothing. Enemies were circling, a complicated pregnancy, twins. It was too much for Catherine's health." "That wasn't your decision to make," Connor argued. "I was trying to protect all of you," Robert maintained, but his voice lacked conviction. Veronica stood, facing Robert directly. "You were protecting yourself, Robert. Your reputation, your ambitions. Catherine was stronger than you ever gave her credit for." For the first time in Connor's memory, his father seemed at a loss for words. Behind him, a small voice spoke from the hallway. "Uncle Connor, who's the angry man?" All three adults turned to see Lily standing there in her pajamas, Emma peering around her. Connor moved quickly to the twins. "This is a business associate," he improvised. "He's just leaving." Robert stared at his granddaughters, a complex mixture of emotions crossing his face. Without another word, he turned and walked out. "Is he the bad man who took Daddy away from you?" Emma asked innocently. Connor knelt beside her, stunned by her perception. "What makes you ask that?" "I heard Nonna Fee talking," Emma admitted. "She said someone took your brother away. That's our daddy, right?" Connor looked up at Veronica, who nodded encouragingly. Taking a deep breath, he made a choice for honesty. "Yes," he said gently. "Your daddy was my brother, and I wish more than anything that I had known him." The following days established a new rhythm in Connor's life. With Veronica's help, the twins settled into a stable routine. Connor took a leave of absence from Hayes Investments, prioritizing the custody proceedings and getting to know his nieces. Veronica moved into the guest room, providing a reassuring presence for the girls and a treasure trove of stories about their father and grandmother. Connor hadn't heard from Robert since their confrontation. Diana assured him this was advantageous. If Robert opposed the custody arrangement, he'd have made his move by now. Then one morning, Connor received an unexpected call from his father's executive assistant, Patricia. "Mr. Hayes, your father has requested you come to the office immediately. He says it's urgent and concerns the children." Connor's instincts flared. "Did he say what specifically?" "No, sir, but he's not alone. Ms. Vanessa Clark is with him." Connor tensed. Vanessa was his father's legal counsel, a woman he'd never trusted. "Tell him I'll be there in an hour." After arranging for Veronica and Frank to stay with the twins, Connor headed to Hayes Tower, Diana accompanying him for legal support. "Something feels off," Connor confided as they rode the elevator. "My father doesn't make reconciliation moves." "Remember, we're in a strong position," Diana reassured him. "The DNA tests, Veronica's testimony, your mother's diary, the evidence is overwhelming." They were escorted directly to Robert's office, where Vanessa Clark stood beside him, a thin folder on the desk between them. "Connor," Robert greeted with unusual warmth. "Thank you for coming, Ms. Morgan," he nodded to Diana. "What's this about, Dad?" Connor asked, remaining standing. Robert sighed heavily. I've been doing some investigating of my own, about Thomas, Melissa, and the twins. I thought you should see this. He slid the folder toward Connor. Inside was a legal document, a will, executed by Thomas Reynolds 3 years earlier, just before his death. Connor scanned it, his blood running cold at a highlighted section. In the event of my death and should my wife Melissa be unable to care for our children, I designate my wife's sister, Cecilia Peterson, as legal guardian of Emma and Lily Reynolds. Connor looked up, stunned. Thomas appointed a guardian. The girls never mentioned an aunt. Vanessa stepped forward. Ms. Peterson has been located. She was unaware of her sister's circumstances but is prepared to take custody of her nieces. This can't be right, Connor argued. The girls have been with Melissa on the streets. Where was this aunt then? Apparently estranged from Melissa due to the drug use, Robert explained smoothly. But now that she's aware of the situation, she's filing for custody based on Thomas's wishes. Diana took the document, examining it closely. We'll need to verify this. Where has Ms. Peterson been while the girls were suffering? That's irrelevant. Legally, Vanessa countered. The will's designation supersedes even blood relatives in most courts. Connor studied his father's expression, too composed, almost satisfied. You arranged this, he realized aloud. You found this woman and convinced her to come forward. Robert neither confirmed nor denied it. I'm simply ensuring all legal avenues are explored. Why? Connor demanded. Why go to these lengths to keep me from raising my brother's children? Haven't you done enough damage? It's not about keeping you from them, Robert insisted. It's about respecting Thomas's wishes. Thomas didn't know I existed because of you. Connor's voice rose. If he'd known he had a brother, do you think he'd have appointed someone else? Diana touched Connor's arm, a silent warning to stay calm. We'll need to meet this Ms. Peterson and verify all of this. Of course, Robert agreed readily. She'll be arriving tomorrow. As they left the office, Connor's anger boiled over. He's trying to take them away from me, just like he took Thomas. Don't jump to conclusions, Diana cautioned. This document could be contested. The circumstances have changed significantly since it was written. Connor's phone rang. It was Veronica, her voice tense. Connor, there's a woman here claiming to be Melissa. She's demanding to see the girls. Melissa? She's supposed to be in treatment for at least 3 more weeks. That's what I told her, but she's insistent. Frank is keeping her in the lobby, but she's threatening to call the police. We're on our way, Connor said, his mind racing. Don't let her near the twins. As they rushed to the elevator, Diana's expression was grim. This timing is too perfect. First the aunt, now Melissa showing up? Your father is orchestrating this. But why? Connor asked as they descended. Why go to these lengths? To maintain control, Diana suggested. Or to keep certain secrets buried. If the custody battle becomes public, everything comes out, including his role in separating you from Thomas. Connor's phone buzzed with a text from Frank. Sir, another development. A reporter is here asking questions about the twins. Says he received an anonymous tip about the Hayes family secret. Connor showed Diana the message, his face pale. He's not just trying to take the girls, he realized. He's threatening to destroy everything if I don't back down. As they hurried across the lobby, Connor made a decision. It's time to stop playing defense. If my father wants a fight, he'll get one. What are you thinking? Diana asked, hurrying to keep pace. I'm going to tell the truth, Connor said firmly. All of it, before he can spin his version. The truth? Connor knew was his most powerful weapon against a man who had built his life on lies. Connor and Diana arrived at his apartment building to find chaos in the marble lobby. Melissa, thin, agitated, but clearly sober, was arguing with Frank while a man with a press badge recorded the confrontation on his phone. Security guards hovered uncertainly. Melissa, Connor called as he approached. She whirled to face him. Where are my daughters? I completed my detox program and they said I could have supervised visits. Connor glanced at the journalist, who was clearly capturing every word. "Let's talk privately," he suggested. "No more secrets," Melissa cried. "I'm tired of being shut
out by rich people who think they can buy my children." The reporter stepped forward eagerly.
"Mr. Hayes, is it true that these children are connected to a long-hidden Hayes family scandal?" Diana intervened smoothly. "My client has no comment at this time. Security, please remove this individual." As guards escorted the protesting journalist, outside, Connor guided Melissa toward the private elevator. "The girls are upstairs. We need to talk first." In the penthouse, Veronica had wisely taken the twins to the bedroom furthest from the entrance. Connor sat Melissa down in the living room, where her agitation visibly increased. "Your father sent me the discharge papers," she blurted out. "Said I could see Emma and Lily today." Connor exchanged alarmed glances with Diana. "My father contacted you, Robert Hayes?" Melissa nodded. "He visited me at the treatment center yesterday, said he was their grandfather and wanted to make things right. He gave me this." She pulled out an envelope containing $10,000 in cash. "For a fresh start with the girls." "Did he ask you to do anything in exchange?" Diana asked carefully. Melissa hesitated. "He said I should claim you were trying to keep my daughters from me, that you weren't fit to care for them because you worked too much." Connor felt a cold fury building. "Did he mention your sister Cecilia?" Melissa looked genuinely confused. "Cecilia? I haven't spoken to her in years. She wanted nothing to do with me after I started using. Your husband appointed her as the girl's guardian in his will," Diana explained gently. "What?" "No, he didn't," Melissa protested. "Thomas and Cecilia barely knew each other. They met maybe twice." Connor's phone rang. Elizabeth. "Connor, turn on the news right now." He grabbed the remote, switching on the television to find his father addressing reporters outside Hayes Tower. "Deeply concerned about my son's recent erratic behavior," Robert was saying. "While I sympathize with his grief over discovering his brother's passing, his fixation on claiming his brother's children borders on unhealthy. These girls belong with their mother or designated family, not with an uncle they've just met who's clearly working through his own trauma." The camera panned to show Vanessa beside Robert, along with a woman Connor didn't recognize. "This is Cecilia Peterson," Robert continued, "the girl's rightful guardian, according to their father's wishes. We're simply trying to respect Thomas Reynolds' final requests for his daughters." The woman, Cecilia, apparently, stepped forward with rehearsed emotion. "I just want my nieces to be with family who've known them their whole lives, not caught in a power struggle within the Hayes empire." Connor muted the television, his expression hardening. "He's trying to paint me as unstable and himself as the reasonable patriarch." Melissa stared at the screen. "That's not Cecilia," she said flatly. "I don't know who that woman is, but she's not my sister." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. He hired an actress, Connor realized. The will, the sister, it's all fabricated. Diana was already typing on her phone. "I'll get an emergency hearing. This is fraud." Melissa looked between them, bewildered. "Why would he go to these lengths?" "To control the narrative," Connor explained, "to protect his reputation." Veronica appeared in the doorway. "The girls are asking for their mother." Melissa's eyes filled with tears. "Can I see them, please?" Connor nodded, a plan forming. "Yes, and then we're going to tell the truth. All of us. Together." Within the hour, Connor had arranged for a different reporter, Janet Chen, a respected investigative journalist who had been critical of Hayes' investments in the past. She arrived with a camera operator, setting up in Connor's living room, where he sat flanked by Melissa, Veronica, and Diana. Elizabeth joined them, bringing Catherine's diaries and photos. "Ready?" Janet asked. Connor nodded, glancing toward the bedroom where Frank was keeping the twins occupied. "My name is Connor Hayes, and this is the true story of how my father, Robert Hayes, separated me from my twin brother at birth, and how I discovered the truth through his daughters, my nieces." As the camera rolled, 32 years of lies began to unravel. The interview aired the following evening. Connor watched with Melissa, Veronica, and Diana as Janet Chen's report systematically dismantled 32 years of deception. The story was compelling. A powerful businessman separating twins at birth, a mother's lifelong search, a chance encounter with orphaned nieces, and a grandfather's desperate attempts to maintain his secrets. Connor's phone hadn't stopped ringing. Since the broadcast began, board members, business associates, friends, he ignored them all, focused on the twins sleeping peacefully in the next room, unaware of the storm their existence had unleashed. "What happens now?" Melissa asked quietly when the program ended. "The court hearing is tomorrow," Diana replied. "With the fraudulent will exposed and the fake aunt revealed, the judge will likely grant joint custody to both of you." Connor looked at Melissa with newfound respect. Since returning from treatment, she'd shown remarkable clarity and commitment to her daughter's well-being. "Are you comfortable with that arrangement?" he asked. Melissa nodded. "The girls need stability. Your home, your resources, you can give them things I can't. But they need their mother too." "We'll make it work," Connor promised. "They deserve to have both of us in their lives." His phone lit up with a text from Elizabeth. "Robert's been taken to the hospital, apparent heart attack after the broadcast." Connor stared at the message, conflicted emotions washing over him. "My father's in the hospital," he announced. "Are you going to see him?" Veronica asked gently. "I don't know," Connor admitted. "Part of me says he deserves whatever happens to him after what he did to our family. But another part, he's still your father," Veronica finished. "Catherine would want you to go." An hour later, Connor stood outside the private hospital room, gathering his courage. Inside, Robert Hayes looked diminished against the white sheets, monitors beeping steadily beside him. His eyes opened as Connor entered. "Come to witness the fall of the mighty?" Robert asked weakly. "I came because you're my father," Connor replied, taking a seat. "Despite everything," Robert studied him silently, "you've destroyed me, you know. The board is meeting tomorrow to vote me out. The company stock has dropped 15%. My legacy is in ruins." "You destroyed yourself," Connor corrected, "with lies that spanned decades. I built an empire for you," Robert insisted. "Everything I did was to secure your future. At the cost of my brother's life, my mother's happiness, those little girls' stability." Connor leaned forward. "That wasn't your decision to make." Robert turned away, staring at the window. "I did what I thought was right at the time." "And now?" A long silence stretched between them before Robert spoke again. "I saw Thomas once, you know, at your mother's funeral. He came to pay respects, though he didn't know who she was to him. The resemblance was so striking I nearly collapsed. I wanted to tell him then, but... "What?" "I was a coward," Robert admitted, the words seeming to physically pain him. "It was easier to maintain the lie than face what I'd done." Connor absorbed this revelation, imagining his unknown brother standing at their mother's grave. "I would have wanted to know him. He was a good man," Robert said softly. "I had him investigated after spotting him at the funeral. He worked as an architect, designed schools and community centers, always putting others first, like Catherine." They sat in silence, the beeping monitors the only sound. Finally, Connor asked the question that had haunted him. "Why did you try to take the twins from me? They're your granddaughters." Robert closed his eyes. "Because they're evidence of my greatest sin. Because every time I looked at that news footage of you with them, I saw what I'd stolen from you and Thomas. From Catherine." His voice broke. "From myself." For the first time, Connor glimpsed the true weight his father had carried, the corrosive effect of 3 decades of guilt and deception. "The girls asked about you," Connor said. "They know you're their grandfather now." Robert's eyes opened, a flicker of something like hope crossing his face. "What did you tell them? That you made a terrible mistake a long time ago? That you're trying to figure out how to make it right?" Connor stood. "The question is, are you?" Before Robert could answer, Connor's phone buzzed with a message from Diana. "Emergency at your apartment. Come now." "I have to go." Connor said, moving toward the door. Connor, Robert called after him. I am sorry. For everything. Connor paused, nodding once in acknowledgement before hurrying away, uncertain if he'd ever find it in himself to forgive. The man who had altered the course of so many lives with his selfishness. Right now, all that mattered were the twins, his last connection to the brother he would never know. Connor raced from the hospital, his mind conjuring worst-case scenarios. When he arrived at his apartment building, police cruisers with flashing lights crowded the entrance. His heart pounding, he pushed past officers to the elevator. Inside his penthouse, he found Diana speaking with Detective Martinez, while Veronica comforted a tearful Melissa on the couch. What happened? Where are the girls? Connor demanded. They're safe, Diana assured him quickly. In your home office with Frank. Relief flooded Connor. Then what's going on? Detective Martinez stepped forward. Vanessa Clark attempted to take the twins. Security stopped her in the lobby. Vanessa? My father's attorney? She had forged emergency custody papers, Diana explained. When security challenged her, she became hysterical, claiming the girls were in danger with you. She's being processed downtown now, Martinez added. But that's not all. We found these in her possession. He handed Connor a file folder. Inside were decades-old medical records, payment receipts to an adoption agency, and a handwritten agreement between Robert Hayes and Vanessa, then using her maiden name, Vanessa Blackwood. Blackwood? Connor looked to Veronica in shock. Like. My daughter, Veronica confirmed, her voice hollow. Vanessa is my daughter. The pieces clicked into place with sickening clarity. She helped my father separate the twins, Connor realized. Her own mother was trying to protect them, and she betrayed her. Veronica nodded, tears streaming down her face. Robert promised her a law career, connections, wealth, everything an ambitious young woman could want. I never knew, never suspected, until I saw her with him on the news yesterday. She's been helping him cover this up for 32 years, Diana said. The fraudulent will, the fake aunt, all her doing according to her preliminary statement. She panicked when your interview aired, Martinez explained. Apparently she worried you'd eventually connect her to the original separation and decided to take matters into her own hands. Connor felt a strange calm settle over him. It's finally over then. Yes, Diana confirmed. With Vanessa's confession and the evidence, there's no legal barrier to the custody arrangement we discussed. Connor walked to his office where Frank stood guard outside. Inside, Emma and Lily played a board game, blissfully unaware of the drama that had unfolded. Uncle Connor, they called in unison, running to hug him. He embraced them tightly, marveling at how completely these two small girls had transformed his life in just a few short weeks. Is everything okay? Emma asked, sensing his emotion. Everything is perfect, Connor assured her. 6 months later, Connor stood in the sunshine of a perfect June day, watching Emma and Lily chase butterflies across the garden of his newly purchased home in the suburbs. A home with a backyard, bedrooms decorated with princess themes, and photos of Thomas displayed prominently throughout. Melissa, now 4 months, sober and working as a teacher's aide, sat on the patio with Veronica, planning the twins' upcoming 6th birthday party. Their arrangement had settled into a comfortable rhythm. The girls lived primarily with Connor but spent weekends with their mother in the guest house on his property. Frank approached, carrying a tray of lemonade. He had retired from driving to become the house manager, a role he embraced with grandfatherly warmth toward the twins. Visitor at the gate, sir, he announced. Connor was surprised to see Robert, looking frail but determined as he made his way slowly up the garden path, with a cane. After his recovery, he had resigned from Hayes Investments, turning control over to Connor, who had immediately implemented family-friendly policies and ethical reforms. Grandpa, the twins called out, approaching Robert cautiously. Over the past months, they had met him several times, gradually warming to the quiet, repentant man so different from the imposing figure Connor had known. I brought presents, Robert said, holding out 2 identical gift boxes. What are they? Lily asked excitedly. Open them and see, Robert encouraged. Inside each box was a silver locket. When opened, each contained a tiny photo of Thomas on one side and Catherine on the other. Your daddy and grandma, Robert explained softly. So you'll always have them with you. Connor watched the scene with mixed emotions. He hadn't fully forgiven his father, but he understood now that forgiveness was a journey, not a destination. As the summer breeze rustled through the garden, Connor felt a sense of completion. The family that had been fractured by one man's fear and ambition was healing, differently shaped than it might have been, but healing nonetheless. In the twins' laughter, he sometimes heard echoes of the brother he never knew. And in their eyes, he saw the future his mother had always dreamed of, her family finally whole.